Introduce Jim. Oh, okay.
The second group will come.
Hi, everyone. I'm a graduate student. I'm doing my PhD in the University of Hawaii at Manoa, and I would like to introduce you my very dear and good advisor, Dr. James Cowan. He's very good. That's how I get to go to sea, and that's how I get to dive down with Alvin twice, and then work with Jason. This is the second time. So all the opportunities are coming from Jim. Okay, everyone. 拍手啊
Hello, everybody.
So do we have questions for Jim?
Yes. Hello, my name is Helen, and thank you for all those extinct scientists can answer our questions. Although we have poor English, or our question is not professional at all. And my question, a little bit silly, that do you really need to tie yourself when sleeping? When you go to bed, do you really need to
You really need to tie yourself down when you're sleeping.
Only occasionally. The weather has to get pretty bad. This is a reasonably large ship, and it takes a pretty good storm to need to tie yourself in. What you do first, when it gets really bouncing around, you stick pillows on either side of your mattress, so you sleep in kind of a little U-shaped bed, and that will usually keep you in pretty well. Although I have been on some cruises where people were falling out of their bunks. But I also want to say that that it is my privilege and great pleasure to have both Tina and her husband Oliver working for me, both who Taiwan has sent to us at University of Hawaii, and we're thrilled to have them with us.
Thank you.
Do we have another question?
Well,
Yeah. I want to ask you, what the most dangerous situation that you have experienced?
You mean underwater, I take it?
Yeah, yeah.
In 1996, there was an eruption off of the big island of Hawaii, Luihi, which is a submerged seamount, and it erupted. And some of us went out as quickly after the eruption as we could, and dove on the Hawaiian submersible, which is called Pisces, and we went down with two pilots because they thought everything was unstable. So they had two pilots and just one scientist, which was myself. And there are very steep walls, even overhanging, which submersible pilots never want to be in a situation where there's something over the top of the submersible. And it was also, because of this eruption, there were many landslides and lots of sediments in the water, so visibility was very, very poor. And so we were hugging the sides of these sheer cliffs, looking for hydrothermal vents, and sometimes we get into a very narrow passageway and have to back up, which is also something submersibles don't like to do when they don't know what's behind them. And so one time we backed up, and one of our thrusters, one of the little propellers that make us propel us through the water, broke, and so it was an emergency ascent, and I'd never seen pilots move so fast. In a matter of 30 seconds, we went from doing science to emergency ascent up to the surface. And it was kind of scary, but it was also pretty exciting at the same time. And one of the pilots at the end of that dive said he was never, ever, ever going to go back down. So I guess it was scary for him too.
Okay, thanks.
Hi. I want to ask you, What are the most exciting things that you have experienced?
Again, I assume, well, my marriage. Other than that, underwater, something similar to what Corey described. I was on that research cruise, where we had Jason and discovered actual eruptions on the seafloor, and about two or 3 years ago, and it was extremely exciting because I've been doing these rapid responses to seafloor eruptions for 15 years, and this was the very first time that we actually saw an ongoing eruption and explosive eruptions, and we get the submersible right up to these eruptions and sample lava, molten lava, as it was formed. It was yellow and red, and it was really the pinnacle of that aspect of my career. So that was probably the most exciting.
Thanks.
But I have to say the most satisfying scientifically is what we're doing right now on these combined cruises to study the deep sub-seafloor biosphere and how materials can move through the ocean crust.
Thanks.
Hello, I am Wendy, and I want to ask you if you feel seasick, and what do you do? Yeah.
I am very fortunate to say no, I do not get seasick.
Wow.
No. I know many people that they are very courageous because they keep coming out even knowing they will get seasick, but almost everybody gets better after a few days. And then kind of, well, maybe they forget, I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Hello, my name is Coco, and I want to ask you how can the creatures still alive? Because the pressure is very different.
Well, that's a good question. The organisms that live on the seafloor have, of course, adapted to the seafloor, and they have no air pockets, so that's very helpful and beneficial to them. Maybe you're talking about how do organisms that live on the seafloor, how do they survive if they're brought to the ocean surface? And many organisms do not survive, although some do. And it's a bit of a mystery to me, and it's something that's actively studied as to which organisms are affected by depressurization, in other words, the removal of the pressure, and by what mechanisms do those that are able to survive that change in pressure, how is it that they can do it? So some organisms can survive and others cannot.
Okay. And if they survive, what do they eat?
Well, that's even more difficult. Sorry?
What they eat?
It depends on the organism. It depends on the organism what they eat. You have anything from particle feeders that just will sweep any kind of food out of suspended in the water, any kind of particles that are suspended in the water, sweep it out. You have others which are major predators, and they require a living organism to walk by or swim by, and they grab it. And there's even organisms, including animals, that can live with based on a symbiotic relationship with microorganisms that live within their tissues. And that's, we've found out those kinds of organisms associated with hydrothermal vents. But when you bring an organism up to the surface, to the sea surface, a lot of times survival can mean that they're just simply alive, but they may not be alive for a long time, and we may not be able to get them to feed on anything because, for one, we may not have the right food for them. But some organisms, some people are very good at bringing organisms up to the sea surface, feeding them, keeping them alive, doing all kinds of experiments with them. And I don't know what they eat. I'm not that kind of biologist.
Thank you.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. My name is AB. I want to ask you, among all species that you have found, which one is your favorite?
Well, I'm very fond of bacteria that are capable of oxidizing manganese. I'm not specific as to their species, but I love them all.
Oh, thanks.
Hi, I'm Ivy. I want to ask you, what is the deepest depth you have been? What is the deepest depth you have been?
The biggest fish that I've seen. Deepest depth that I have been. I think about 3,500 meters.
And I want to ask you another one. What do we need if we want to do the job like you in the future?
Good question. You need to study your basic math through calculus. You need to study your basic sciences. Independent of what branch of science you might want to go into, you would need to study chemistry and physics. And if you're interested in biology, then biology. If you have a chance to take a course in geology, geosciences, including oceanography, that would be great. But whatever math and science classes that you can take, and the higher the level, the better. And yeah.
Oh, thank you.